Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today an art journal tutorial. We're going to start with collage papers. And I'm keeping this one mostly in real time. So here's the color inspiration. Corbels from my garden. So I'm starting on a gessoed page. This is my 7x10 Canson mixed media. And I'm pulling some collage papers. That was a magazine paper. I've got colored coffee filters, deli paper that I've stenciled on, and I am just going to pick 3 of those. I'm going for a dark, a medium, and a lighter tone from my inspiration picture. So this is on deli paper and it's my dark. Now I am going to sort of build a frame. I'm going to make a vertical and a horizontal line on the page, and that's going to give me a place to put my focal image and to build on. Now I've seen lots of people doing this. It's not something that I've done a lot of. So I'm just taking the various collage papers that I had. This one is some deli paper that I stenciled on with just black paint, and I'm just layering it up, getting that horizontal and vertical line. So I'm going to glue this down with my fluid matte medium. Now you can get the basics, but you can also get the professional, and if you shop around for deals, you can get the professional one for pretty much the same price. So do the price comparison. Don't just assume that the basics is the cheaper one. You can also use gel medium. As I said, doing this vertical and horizontal line isn't something that I've done a lot of. But it's always good to stretch your techniques. Take chances. Try something different. Now, if you don't like this color scheme, you can pick 3 colors, a dark, a medium, and a light, and go with that and create the same kind of thing. Use your collage papers. So in the end, I'm using this brown, and then I go into burnt sienna, orange, and yellow oxide. And that's dictated by the collage papers. Now what you see me ripping here is stickers. These are like notebook labels that I gel printed on and colorized. And so I'm just ripping them apart and just peel and stick. Although I am putting a coat of the fluid matte medium, there is some underneath and on top because these stickers are ancient and I really don't want them to lift. So whatever collage papers you use, that's going to dictate the paint choices later down the road. So as you can see, you see the yellow, you see the orange, and you see the darker brown. I have a bin on my desk where I keep these little bits of collage papers, and this is a great time to use it. And I'm just building that up. Now, at this time, I don't have any idea about focal images. I don't have any idea about where this is going to go. I'm just merely working on building that vertical and horizontal line, layering collage papers, and here I'm just adding a little bit more. And then I decide I'm going to add some more of the dark in there. I'm just kind of going with what I see and what I like. There is no right or wrong. You can have wider strips and smaller strips. I'm ripping off always the straight edges. I don't like the look of the straight edges on there. You can use washi tape, although I do admit I do not own a single piece or roll of washi tape. So now I want to do some stamping in the background. And it's not about making these perfect stamps. This is a Stamperia set. It's a music set, and I got it from NinnysNapkins. I don't think she carries this one anymore, but there is another music one that's there. And it really doesn't matter. What I want to do by stamping right now is just add some interest to the background. And I want it on the smaller scale, which is why I chose the stamp set that I have. Some of this I'm going to knock back with gesso, so you'll see it kind of lightened or pushed back. I just want to have little bits of interest in the background. This one, for instance, I do go in and I put a swipe of white gesso over it just to knock it back, because it's right in the middle and I don't want it to be the focal point. And the gesso will knock that back and allow the focal image to be focal. So again, my goal with stamping is to simply add interest to the background. I could have stenciled here, but typically my stencils, they're a little larger scale and I want it the smaller scale. So I wanted to add some texture to the background and break down some of that collage papers. So I grabbed this stencil. I believe it's called something circuitry, but I will put it in the description box below. And I am putting not modeling paste, but thickened gesso or thick gesso. So it's not going to give a very precise stenciled or texture. It is going to add some texture to it. I want it to be subtle. I don't want that to be the major thing. You do really see it in real life at the end. And I do kind of show a couple close-ups of it. And I'm putting this on because when I do add color with acrylic paints, that's going to get caught in the nooks and crannies, and it's just going to give a slightly different effect. Now, whenever you use gesso on a stencil or modeling paste on a stencil, you always want to take time to wash that stencil. Again, this is adding a very subtle pattern, very subtle texture. If you want more texture, you want this to really stand out, then by all means use modeling paste. Just decided to add a little bit more there. So that kind of broke up a little bit of those collage papers, knocked them back. So now what I'm doing is going to add color to the background. So I'm picking the three colors, the orange, the yellow oxide, and I'm using burnt sienna as my dark. And I'm putting that on, I'm thinning it down, and then you're going to see me spray with a water bottle to get it flowing. This is going to give it a bit of a watercolor-y look. I want it to be translucent. I don't want to hide everything behind it. But this process right here can be a little scary because I don't really have control. You just keep working it till you like it. You're adding water, so periodically you're going to see me bring out that heat tool and dry it up. Because there's that gesso on there, when that gets wet, it sometimes, if it's not completely dry, and I of course didn't let it completely dry, you lose some of the texture there. So it's a bit of a dance. You're adding some, taking away some, and then you'll see me dabbing it with a paper towel. My goal here is to get variation in color, use the colors that I got out of the collage papers, and make an interesting background. If you get an area that is too dark or the paint is there, you can dab it up with a paper towel rather quickly. That's one of the benefits of having a gessoed surface to start off with. It allows you to do that. The other thing you can do is if it dries and you don't like it, put a coat of gesso on it to knock it back and then reapply the paint. And you're going to see me, I'm coming in, I'm adding a little bit of this burnt sienna, I'm adding a little bit of the yellow oxide, I'm adding a little bit of the orange. Seemingly no rhyme or reason, but I'm just keep looking at it and holding it up and deciding, do I like it, do I not? And when you like it, that's when you get to stop. So there may be more or less white space. No shocker that I didn't get leave a lot of white space. See, I could have left it right here as I'm looking this over. I think that would have worked. Because at this point, I still did not have a plan for the focal image, other than it was going to go in the corner where the horizontal and vertical line meet. That kind of gives a nice nesting place for a focal image. And you can see I'm adding paint, I'm adding water, I'm moving it, I'm dabbing up, and the dance continues. A lot of times when I've seen people doing this, they're using watercolors at this time, and you can do that. Watercolors will reactivate if you put wet medium on them afterwards. I'm using acrylic paint, so once I dry this, it is permanent. And I don't have to worry about that. So that's why I choose to do acrylic paint. Over watercolor. And you can see the stamping that I had done in the background now with the little bit of gesso that I've applied and the paint now has been pushed back. It's not in your face anymore. If I like where something is, that's when I get out the heat tool and let it dry. If I don't like it, I can dab it up. And you can always go and add more. So do it over time, little by little. So this is a stencil. It's kind of a frondy kind of thing that I cut with my silhouette. And you can easily make your own. Just trace it out on acetate and then cut with an X-Acto knife. You don't need a machine to do it. And you don't need to have you don't have to have drawing capabilities to draw these fronds. Whatever you draw is good. So now I'm going to stencil with, that one was with the burnt sienna. And I'm going to stencil with some of the orange, and I'm going to stencil with some of the yellow oxide. I'm going to layer them up. So I'm still using the same colors. Even though I might switch to the yellow oxide or the orange, I'm not grabbing a new sponge. I'm just using the same one because I don't mind if the colors are melding and creating another or fifth tone of color. So I'm just going to edge the page. I've got some of the burnt sienna on there. I want to bring out the vertical and horizontal line. It got lost a little bit, so I'm grabbing my Inktense pencil in the, I believe it's called Jet Black. And I'm going to do some scribble work along that horizontal and vertical line. And then I'm going to activate it with a brush with water. And that is going to add some black to this and bring that out because I've lost it a little bit here with what I've done. So there I'm adding the water. And I'm really liking the contrast that black gives. Now, if you don't have Inktense pencils, you can use Inktense blocks. You can use a Stabilo All pencil, a watercolor pencil. I like the Inktense again because once it's activated, it will be permanent and I don't have to worry about it at later stages, putting wet medium on. If you use a Stabilo All pencil and you are gluing on top of that, it will reactivate and you may end up smudging. Now, if you use the Stabilo All pencil or a charcoal pencil here, and it is something that is going to reactivate, you can spray it with a sprayable fixative, just to set it so that you don't have to worry about it. But I prefer not using any kind of sprays and just using stuff that stays permanent. I'm just adding more and more of that black to bring back that vertical and horizontal line. Because really that's what I'm going to use to frame. And then I'm getting some drippage here. And then drawing it. When I like it, I'm drawing it in place. I'm just going to add a little bit more stenciling. I've got some gaps. Then I'm just adding a little color to some of the fronds just to make it stand out a little bit more. And I'm mixing those colors. And I'm loving, loving, loving the background here. This, with these fronds in that warm color tone. But again, if you don't like these colors, feel free to substitute. This is a doodle flower that I had in my stash. I could put that. This gnome is a gnome stamp that I got from NinnysNapkins. It would go here. You could put a magazine picture. You could go through your stamps and find something. Because you have that vertical, horizontal line, you have a place to put it. So I cut out the gnome and then I decide, I'm going to go with the doodle flower. So I'm going to glue that down with my fluid matte medium. But as soon as I go on top of the flower with the wet, you'll notice that it activated. That doodle flower was done with Stabilo All pencil or something that has not been activated. So it is smudging. So now I have to be a little bit more careful because I don't want this to be gray. So you're going to see me grab my paper towel and lift it up a little bit. I do come up with a solution, but that's one of the downsides of using these water-soluble, water-activated, non-permanent products. It can surprise you at some point, especially if you have your stash and you don't remember what's there. So what I did is I just took some white gesso and I'm applying the white to the flower. It's not obliterating the text that was there, but it is getting rid of some of the gray and making the flower, my focal image, stand out. So I'm happy in the end. There's always a solution. Sometimes you just have to go add one more step or two more steps to get there. So now I'm going to do some line work, and to do that I grabbed my white Posca. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do white or black, so I thought, oh, I'm going to do white. And using white line work is, of course, lightening the overall effect. I am not trying to be precise here at all. I'm not trying to be exact. It's very much scribble line work. Very imperfect. Now, if you like this effect and you like it like this, don't do what I do next. And I did like it at this stage, and I did consider stopping with the white. But I ended up grabbing the black and just adding more sketchy lines. You could have done white by itself, you could have done black by itself, or you could do both, which is what I've done. And that's simply a matter of personal taste. What end effect do you like best? And you know what, sometimes it's like you don't know till you try it. Said, oh, I wish I would have left it at the white. And then I'm doing some around the doodle flowers, just adding more scribbles. Be sure that it's perfectly dry before you grab out your Posca pens. Now my short and sweet sentiment pack has lots of short phrases, 3-4 word phrases, 1 word to 4 word phrases, but I've done it in lots of different fonts, and white letters with a black background like you see here, which are perfect for this page, or black letters with a white background. And don't be afraid to mix and match. So I cut out 3 different ones, semi-related. It was all about taking chances, be playful, start where you are, take the risk. Do something different. And don't worry if it doesn't turn out exactly the way mine does. Start where you are. Keep doing it, keep creating, and you will get better. This is a woodless charcoal pencil, and I'm just going to frame my page. I love the darkness of this, and I want to have that dark because of course I've got the dark background with the white letters, and I've got the black on around the fronds. So everything came together. So I had my 3 basic colors, and then I have black and white for contrast. Just adding some more lines on that vertical or horizontal line, bringing it out a little bit more. And right now I don't have to worry because I know I'm not adding any more wet liquid. Now I'm using that charcoal pencil on the fronds. I'm just adding a little bit line work. Lazy shading, I think, right here. I'm adding a little bit dark and just rubbing it in. It deepens the color, it gives it some dimension, and it's super easy. Close-ups will be shown at the end. But before I'm done, I'm going to add some white splatters. This is white paint that I've thinned down, and I'm going to use my fan brush. And I want to get bigger globs. So I'm adding a little bit of water here. And I got a little too much right on top of the black, so I'm just lifting that off with some paper towel. Don't like splatters? Leave them out. Want more splatters? Do more. And I'm drying this a little bit, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to add some black splatters as well. So look at your collage papers, get some collage papers and try building a horizontal vertical line that intersects, and then go from there. So there is the finished page after I took off the painter's tape. You can still see the vertical and horizontal line. There's where you can still see some of that texture from the thick gesso that I put through the stencil. It's very subtle, but it's there. Love the colors of this one. Thank you so much for joining me. Give me a thumbs up, ask me a question, leave me a comment. And until next time, go get creative.